what's going on, y'all? This is Cedric Hawkins, and welcome to another edition of the CedTalks Podcast. Thank you very much for tuning in at this time. Today is just going to be myself and my thoughts, just because I wanted to get the subject of my father off of my chest and be able to talk about him for a little bit and be able to kind of, I wouldn't say vent in a way, but just express how I felt about him, express my love about him in an open format where I'm not texting about it or I'm not, posting a post on social media about it. I haven't done a podcast in about a few weeks now, maybe almost 2 weeks since this happened. So I believe this is going to give me more peace and more closure about everything. And I hope you guys see my father the way I did. And, last Monday, September 14th, I lost my father, Lamont Cedric Hawkins, 43 years old, leaves behind my mom, myself, my brother, his two parents, and my two uncles, his two brothers. I've been holding up well since his passing. Every day certainly is not easy at all, and that's what I've been hearing from multiple people who have lost loved ones that have been close to them. It's not easy, and I don't think it ever will. I don't think there will ever be a day or a week for that matter where my dad will not pop up in my mind. I've had days these past week and a half where I'm just high and I'm on cloud nine. I just have this passion and exuberance for life. And then I have those days where a certain memory will pop up and just sadness will creep up on me and it makes me feel sad or it makes me feel lonely. I remember this past Sunday, I was driving in my car on my way to my uncle's house because I had to pick something up for a family member. And I'm sitting there listening to a song, and I passed by a Tahoe that he used to ride. That was his ride. He used to ride around it all the time, and just got me thinking, like, man, like, dad's not coming home. And I had that acceptance and I had that peace in a way that I knew he wasn't coming home, but just the realization, it was very surreal, but it's also real at the same time that dad's not coming home in that Tahoe. And it got me thinking that, all my friends and peers, some of my family members and cousins, they still have their fathers in their life, and my father is gone suddenly, unexpected, just like that. And it made me feel like really sad inside. And I've also been battling with talking to people and just, talking about how I feel and just getting it off my chest. Sometimes I feel like I don't want to be a burden on people. I think I've always had that problem my entire life, just not expressing myself. But when I talk about it, it makes me feel better in a way. And it helps give me the closure and peace, that I need to keep pushing on and keep moving forward. And so that's what I've been doing. After having those emotions, I went over to my grandparents' house, sat down and talked with them, talked with my uncle, and my spirits were uplifted and I felt more better. So the days definitely aren't easy, but I definitely find a way to push on and have the strength and courage to keep moving forward. As Walt Disney would say, one of my favorite quotes of all time. I'm probably going to watch Meet the Robinsons when I'm done recording this, but definitely I've been staying encouraged and having a lot of strength. And in spite of some of the questions that I've had for God as to, why this happened, I know that God is still on the throne and that he does not make mistakes. Even if I feel like he's made a mistake because a certain expectation of mine was not met, I know and believe that he has a plan for my life and how I am going to move forward with my life. In a way, since his passing, I felt more confidence in myself and just passion for all the things that I've been dreaming about but not putting my energy towards. And, once his passing happened, I realized, like, look, said it's time to wake up. It's time to start doing what God put me on this earth to do, whether it's with my writing, whether it's with my podcast or being a teacher or being in school and putting in the work. It's time for me to hit the ground and, start rolling and start running so I can work hard in my 20s. So in my 30s and 40s, I can kick back and live life the way I want to. I remember listening to a certain speech by Denzel Washington, and he said that dreams are goals that are not written. And literally, I felt that because before his passing happened and everything, I used to live life as like a hermit crab. I was pretty much content with sitting in my house, in my room, not being bothered by anyone. I was someone who chose not to mingle with anyone. I had walls and barriers put up that people had to knock down in order for them to see me and get to know the real me and who I'm about and just the type of person that I am. And I've always kept my inner circle very small. And while I do believe that you shouldn't open yourself up to every single person you know, because some people don't have their best interests at heart when it comes to you and your emotions and feelings and what you go through, I have been very fortunate and very blessed to have friends and family in my life who has consistently reached out to me and showed their love and support in this past week and a half. It really shows to me that people do care and that maybe it's time that I ought to start letting those walls and barriers down and start vibing with people more and just connecting with them and seeing, what they want out of life and figuring out, if they share the same interests as I do. And if they do, then it's the perfect opportunity for them to continue to push me towards my goals and aspirations. Because we all get discouraged. We all have times where we doubt ourselves and our abilities, but it's so amazing to know that you have somebody in your corner who's willing to help pick yourself back up and get you back to where you need to be. And I truly and so heartily believe that this will be the biggest test from God that I will ever face in my life. But I believe and declare that He is going to keep me uplifted. He's going to keep me strong. And He's going to give me the peace in the midst of the storms that I may go through in these next few weeks, months, or even years to come as I navigate this life without my father. And as they say, the show must go on in show business. And so the show will go on with the CedTalks podcast. I have so many goals for this show. I want to be able to have a YouTube channel and have different cameras that I can set up in different angles. And hopefully when this COVID thing runs its course and we can start mingling around with people again, I will be able to do in-person interviews and be able to have that on camera and not only post it to Apple Podcasts and Podbean. I want to be able to post it on YouTube and allow people to see the connection that I'm able to have with my guest. And so that's my goal and my dreams for the podcast going forward. But, for today's episode, I wanted to, share some stories about my dad, share what I remember him as, and as the man that, that I want to be when I eventually have a family. He wasn't perfect by any means. I mean, nobody's perfect in that sense. Nobody on this earth is perfect. We're all made of flesh and bone, and the flesh craves a lot of things. And like I said, my dad wasn't perfect, but I could honestly say that he was one of the best men that I've ever known. He was also a man of a few short words, very peaceful, kind, gentle spoken. He always loved to laugh. I always remembered his laugh and his smile. It was just amazing. Whenever you ran into my dad, Lamont Hawkins, whether it was in public or you saw him, coming over, you would never forget him or his presence. I can remember a time back in February, I was at the barber shop getting my hair cut. I was getting my haircut and my beard lined up for my graduation pictures. And the barber was like, "Hey, I've been looking at you since you walked in. You look familiar. Hey, what's your dad's name?" I've been used to this my entire life with people asking me questions about, where I'm from or who my parents are or who my grandparents are. So I was like, my dad is Lamont Hawkins. And when I tell you this dude wrapped me in the tightest bear hug ever, it was so just passionate. I mean, he was squeezing me and grabbing me. Like, he was a pretty big dude, and people who know me knows that I'm not the biggest guy out there, but he was squeezing me to the point where I couldn't breathe. And he was like, "Man, I love your dad, man. That's my boy." So, after he said that, I just went along with it, yeah, that's my dad and all. But I learned that day that, everybody's watching you, whether it's your parents, your grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins. There are people in this county, maybe out of state, who knows? There are people that know you that you don't even know them. So it's like you always have to be on your P's and Q's. But I don't take that as a negative way at all. I look at that as if I'm carrying the legacy of my parents, of my grandparents, my aunts and uncles and cousins just by, being able to push on and be out there in public and, making a life for myself. The fun and joy that my dad brought in my life and to the lives of everyone, they're never going to fade away. I've been having all these memories that have been possibly buried in my mind just coming back out to life. one of the things that my dad and I used to love to do was Six Flags during the summer as a kid. We never went in the fall, which I didn't really understand why, because it was less crowded, but I love the water, and I probably wouldn't have been interested in going in the fall anyway. But that was our thing until my little brother, he got old enough to join us. And I was about 10 years old, and we were going past some of the big water rides. And it captivated me to no end to see this new ride. And I begged him to let me go on. I was like, Dad, can we ride it? Can we go on the ride? And he was like, my phone, man, my phone. I don't want to get my phone wet. I don't want to get it messed up. And me being a kid, I was like, it's not going to get messed up. You can just put it in your back pocket. So, we went in the area and we were looking for small lockers for him to put his stuff in. But, they were all booked and sold out. And so I guess in a way for him to take my mind off of what I wanted to do, we went ahead and rode some other rides, had our fun. And as we were getting ready to leave and we're walking back to the water rides area, I was like, all right, this is it. This is my last pitch. And, I asked him one more time if we can ride it. And finally he relented and we got on the ride. And so we're sitting there and we're on the ride where we're locked in, we're climbing and we're climbing and we're reached the top and we're going around in a circle, and then there is a peak that drops you down and it's just whoosh. We go down the ramp and water just goes everywhere. We get soaked and just drenched in water. I'm like, yeah, like I'm screaming, having a ball, and like my clothes are drenched. My dad's clothes are drenched. And in his shorts pockets is the phone that he didn't want to get messed up. And in a way, I felt, very bad about it, but children are very egocentric. Like, they don't care. It's all about them and what they want and their interests. So, as a kid, I was just thrilled that I got to go on the ride. But luckily, his phone was still intact and it still worked. At Six Flags, Joker Jinx was our favorite ride to go on. I don't know, there was just something about the thrill and just how fast and unexpected the ride would start, and there would be so many twists and turns and loop-de-loops, and it was just such an ultimate thrill ride to be able to ride those roller coasters with him. And I will be sure to pass the tradition of amusement parks right down to my children and my grandchildren. So thank you for that, Dad. And thank you for also instilling my fear of no heights, because without that, I wouldn't be able to climb those roofs with Pop-Pop all those times. I'm sure my listeners know the Wiggles as kids. Maybe they did, maybe they don't, but that was something that I loved so much as a kid. And my dad would take me to Toys R Us, and we would go to the VHS section where the kids area was at, and I would pick out my movies, and he'd take me over to my grandparents' house, and he'd put me in my high chair, and he'd fix me some oodles and noodles or give me some saltine crackers, and I would just watch my movies. And the thing about it was, he never ever told me to stop watching the Wiggles. Like, it wasn't the case of like, turn the channel, like, you're too old for that, like, stop watching that. Even though I was 7 to 8 years old and I should have been watching something more developmentally appropriate for my age, he let me have my fun with it, and he let me continue to watch it, and he never, questioned it. And he just waited until I phased out of the Wiggles and shifted my interest onto something else. And that's when, the wrestling bug caught a hold of me when I was 8 years old. And from then, I was just hooked on it. Every time I think about that late 2000s, early 2010s period where I was in elementary school and early middle school, like, the nostalgia just hits me, from watching my childhood hero John Cena representing like a superhero like Captain America, urging everyone to never give up, to my first fan favorite Jeff Hardy with the wild colored hair and the vibrant face paint just jumping off of things and going crazy, up into Rey Mysterio with the colorful mask flying around the ring, doing all of these moves and hitting the 619 on people. It had me and my cousin AJ hooked. And my dad, he gave me the belts. Bought me the action figures. He bought me the DVDs, which I still keep in my room to this day. Definitely not getting rid of those. But he supported me and AJ's I wouldn't say dreams, but he supported our hobbies and what we were into. He never really, like I said, told us to stop watching it. He took us to all the wrestling events and the wrestling shows. Like, I'll never forget my first show he took me to. I was 9 years old, and I was just so surprised by it. Like, he surprised me for it, and I was just pumped. Like, I was so excited to be there. I went to summer camp that Monday, and I was telling any and everybody, hey, look, I'm going to be on TV. It's on this channel at 9 o'clock. Like, watch it. And I'll never forget us riding the metro train to get there. And then when we got there, it was just awe-inspiring for me to see all of this action just live and in person for the first time ever. And he held me on his shoulders, and we were sitting there waving to the camera. Like, it was such a incredible experience. And he took me to so many events after that. And I'm sure he got tired of doing it after I turned 16 years old. But I'll never forget that experience, and I'll always keep that with me. And it taught me to also, not give up on my kids' passions and their interests, and to let them do them and let them do what they love, and wait until it phases out and watch them transition onto the next thing. My father loved football and basketball with a passion, and while I didn't have the same interest as him, even to this day when it comes to football or basketball, it was always intriguing to watch you play your PS3 or your Xbox One and just sit there and just rage and yell at dudes online like you were some high schooler. It was crazy. At times, I questioned your sanity every time you got upset. I can never understand why you got so heated at everything, but it wasn't until that I got older and started playing those games that I understood your frustration at the time. And I got one more story to tell, and I was getting ready to start driving. And, we go to this park and ride, and he is taking me there, teaching me, what to do, having me get a feel for the steering wheel, get a feel for the brakes and the pump and everything, and just we practice on Friday evening and we practice on a Saturday afternoon. And finally on Sunday, he decided that, he was comfortable with taking me out on the road. Now, I was real anxious. Like, I had never been driving before. I never drove anything for that matter. I never drove a lawnmower. Like, I didn't have that type of experience. But sure enough, I was doing great. We made it through Upper Marlboro. We made it through Dunkirk. I drove through Owings and made it straight past Huntingtown. And it's only when we got to Prince Frederick where things went south. When I was turning right into the Shell gas station that's near the Safeway and KFC in Prince Frederick, it's a little shopping center. Instead of using the brakes to slow down and control the vehicle, I pressed down on the gas at full speed ahead. He was like, "Sed, what are you doing? Use the brakes, use the brakes." So I'm sitting there, I pumped on the brakes right in the middle of the road. I mean, I slammed on those brakes. And he was like, "Not now, not too hard. Someone's going to hit the back of my truck. Someone's going to hurt it." And so now he's freaking out, which made me freak out. And so now we're both panicking. And after all of that, my dad just said, "You know what, just go to the 7-Eleven that was in Prince Frederick and just park by one of the gas pumps. And then from there, we would get out." And so once we got there, I swerved too hard once again going into the store. Instead of going slowly on the brakes, I decided to just hit the gas. And I hit his front tire and just rode along the side of the curb that was there. And after he yelled my name one more time, I proceeded to shake my head in shame and just parked right where I wanted. I parked right where he told me to park at. And so once I put the car in park, I look over and his hand is just covering his head and he's just shaking his head. Like, I could sense the disappointment that he wasn't trying to show right there. And I felt that energy. And he was just talking about how, I messed his tires up, and he's sure I messed his tires up. And as soon as we got out of the car, I looked at his tires, and sure enough, I truly did mess them up. But, after that mess up, he promised that he would get me a rental car and we would practice in that. He never did get me that rental car, but I'm always grateful, and I will forever be grateful for him ended up working with me many months later after that and helping me hone my skills to be a great driver. I always sought my dad's approval and his love, when he was here on this earth. Even though I knew that he loved me and I could feel his sense of pride whenever I did something good, he never really expressed it well. So every time I accomplished something, I would always let him know, and he would go, my man, like, I'm proud of you." You know what I mean? After I failed my first driver's license test for the first time, which caused him to throw his hat down on the ground and yell some explicit words, when I got it right the second time, it was the best feeling in the world, making him proud. He took me to the Roy Rogers in Solomon's Island, and we had our lunch in the car. And, looking back on that moment, it gives me great joy. I remember getting my diploma from CSM back in the summer, and I texted it to him, and he just said, "Congratulations, son." And he had the celebratory emojis and the exclamation points, and it gave me, a great seal. That's stammering over my words, but it gave me, a lot of pride that I was able to make him feel that. And I know that I'll always sense your pride in me just by feeling your presence and, hearing your voice from here on out. And although a part of me does wish, that you were still here to watch me get my bachelor's degree or get my master's degree or get my doctorate, have my dream career, watch me get married and start a family, watch you be a grandfather and be a great grandfather and how you interact, with my kids, I know that you're going to have the best seat in the house by the Lord Jesus Christ and serving God watching. Isaiah 54 verse 17 of the King James Version said, "No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord." And I know that I got you on my side, Dad, and I got the Lord Jesus Christ and God on my side. 3 spiritual fathers I now have, so I know that you're going to be there for me. So this is my goodbye to you, Dad. I'm going to continue to make you proud. I believe and declare that I am going to travel this world and spread my story of my life and the gospel of Jesus Christ to inspire others. I'm going to go to Africa. I'm going to Egypt. I'm going to Japan. I'm going to Canada. I'm going to Europe. I'm going to China. Hell, I'm going to Hawaii and I'm building myself a little beach house, and that's going to be my vacation house whenever I feel like getting out of the States and just chilling in a different area. I'm going to travel different states in this country as well, and I'm just going to travel and explore and just live my life. So this isn't goodbye to you forever. It's only a see you later. Because although your spirit and soul has risen from your body and your body is no longer with us, it is your spirit and soul that will forever live on through me and Kyle and for the next generations of Hawkins to come. So although I close the door on you, Dad, and begin to start this new life without you, I know you won't be gone forever. Because you'll always be right here in my mind, and you're always going to be in my heart. So thank you, Dad, and I love you. And thank you guys for listening to this episode. It really brought me joy to do this. I was kind of afraid to do so and do this, but, like I said, I'm stepping outside of my comfort zone, and I'm doing the things that brings me fear in order to get that good feeling and in order to keep pushing on and keep moving forward and not living inside my own head. So expect some episodes to come within the next week, and I hope you guys stay blessed and stay encouraged, and thank you guys again.
God sees your obedience. He sees you believing when you could be discouraged. He hears you praising when you could be complaining. He sees you stretching when you could be shrinking back. Now, I believe for many of you, you're about to walk into your healing, walk into your freedom, walk into a great spouse, walk into abundance. As you keep walking, you're going to see God show out in your life.